Penguin Random House Audio presents Daring Greatly, How the Courage to be Vulnerable Transforms the Way We Live, Love, Parent, and Lead. This is the author, Brené Brown. Before we launch into the audio of Daring Greatly, I want to say a couple of things. First, thank you so much for purchasing the audio. This book has meant the world to me, really. It has changed me. It's changed the way I show up at work, the way I show up at home with my family, with my colleagues, with the people I lead. So I feel deeply grateful to be able to share it with you. The second thing I want to say is that while I wrote this book just a mere 6 years ago, there are two things that kind of took my breath away while I was reading it. The first is how much our lives have changed in the last 6 years. I think if I was writing this book today, you would hear mentions of things that I just couldn't have dreamed of 6 years ago. I wrote something about needing a revolution around empathy, and today we've got the Me Too movement. I talked about the need to rehumanize each other and rehumanize our work and our lives, and we've got Black Lives Matter. It is a different world that we live in today, and in some ways, harder. I talked about what could possibly happen if we stay in this culture of deep scarcity and fear. And I think some of that has materialized. The second thing that was really kind of blew my mind as I was reading this is how much of this not only still stands, but is truer and more important in some ways than ever. And for that, I am so appreciative of the people I interviewed, the research participants, whose wisdom and insight and hard-fought experiences went into this book. Because, I'm a vessel. I'm a writer. I take these research interviews and I try to write them or speak them in a way that's meaningful for all of us. But the real credit goes to the men and women, the people that I have interviewed that shared such deep truths with us that they still stand. So in some ways, I guess the paradox is, wow, it's a different world. And, dang, this stuff is still true and real. So again, thank you for being a part of Daring Greatly with me. And I hope it resonates. Courage is contagious, and we all need to be brave together. To Steve, you make the world a better place and me a braver person. What it means to dare greatly. The phrase daring greatly is from Theodore Roosevelt's speech, Citizenship in a Republic. The speech, sometimes referred to as the Man in the Arena, was delivered at the Sorbonne in Paris, France on April 23, 1910. This is the passage that made the speech famous. It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again. Because there is no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause? Who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly. The very first time I read this quote, I thought, this is vulnerability. Everything I've learned from over a decade of research on vulnerability has taught me this exact lesson. Vulnerability is not knowing victory or defeat. It's understanding the necessity of both. It's engaging. It's being all in. Vulnerability is not weakness, and the uncertainty, risk, and emotional exposure we face every day are not optional. Our only choice is a question of engagement. Our willingness to own and engage with our vulnerability determines the depth of our courage and the clarity of our purpose. The level to which we protect ourselves from being vulnerable is a measure of our fear and disconnection. When we spend our lives waiting until we're perfect or bulletproof before we walk into the arena, we ultimately sacrifice relationships and opportunities that may not be recoverable. We squander our precious time, and we turn our backs on our gifts, those unique contributions that only we can make. Perfect and bulletproof are seductive, but they don't exist in the human experience. We must walk into the arena, whatever it may be, a new relationship, an important meeting, our creative process, or a difficult family conversation, with the courage and the willingness to engage. Rather than sitting on the sidelines and hurling judgment and advice, we must dare to show up and let ourselves be seen. This is vulnerability. This is daring greatly. Join me as we explore the answers to these questions. What drives our fear of being vulnerable? How are we protecting ourselves from vulnerability? What price are we paying when we shut down and disengage? And how do we own and engage with vulnerability so we can start transforming the way we live, love, parent, and lead? Introduction. My adventures in the arena. I looked right at her and said, I frickin' hate vulnerability. I figured she's a therapist. I'm sure she's had tougher cases. Plus, the sooner she knows what she's dealing with, the faster we can get this whole therapy thing wrapped up. I hate uncertainty. I hate not knowing. I can't stand opening myself up to getting hurt or being disappointed. It's excruciating. Vulnerability is complicated and it's excruciating. Do you know what I mean? Diana nods. Yes, I know vulnerability. I know it well. It's an exquisite emotion. Then she looks up and kind of smiles, as if she's picturing something really beautiful. I'm sure I looked confused because I can't imagine what she's picturing. I'm suddenly concerned for her well-being and my own. I said it was excruciating, not exquisite, I point out. And let me say this for the record. If my research didn't link being vulnerable with living a wholehearted life, I would not be here. I hate how it makes me feel. What does it feel like? She asks. I tell her, it's like I'm coming out of my skin, like I need to fix whatever's happening and make it better. And if you can't, she replies, then I feel like punching someone in the face. And do you? No, of course not. So she looks at me and asks, so what do you do? I clean the house. I eat peanut butter. I blame people. I make everything around me perfect. I control whatever I can, whatever's not nailed down. When do you feel the most vulnerable? She asks. When I'm in fear. I look up as Diana responds with that annoying pause and head nodding done by therapists to draw us out. When I'm anxious and unsure about how things are going to go, or if I'm having a difficult conversation, or if I'm trying something new or doing something that makes me feel uncomfortable or opens me up to criticism or judgment. She leans into another annoying pause as the empathic nodding continues. When I think about how much I love my kids and Steve and how my life would be over if something happened to them. When I see the people I care about struggling and I can't fix it or make it better. All I can do is be with them. I see, she says. I go on. I feel it when I'm scared that things are too good or too scary. I'd really like for it to be exquisite, but right now it's just excruciating. Can people change that? Diana looks at me. Yes, I believe they can. I'm relieved. Can you give me some homework or something? Should I review the data? Diana smiles. No data, no homework. No assignments or gold stars in here. Less thinking, more feeling. Can I get to exquisite without having to feel really vulnerable in the process? No, she says. Well, shit. That's just awesome. If you don't know anything about me from my other books, my blog, or the TED videos that have gone viral online, let me catch you up. If, on the other hand, you're already a little queasy from the mention of a therapist, skip this chapter entirely and go straight to the appendix about my research process. It's in a bonus PDF that comes along with your audiobook. I've spent my entire life trying to outrun and outsmart vulnerability. I'm a fifth-generation Texan with a family motto of lock and load, so I come by my aversion to uncertainty and emotional exposure honestly and genetically. By middle school, which is the time when most of us begin to wrestle with vulnerability, I began to develop and hone my vulnerability avoidance skills. Over time, I tried everything from the good girl with my perform, perfect, and please routine to clove
Sample complete. Ready to continue?